Okay, hi everyone. Welcome back to another video tutorial by Professor Deb Cricken. This time I want to cover a couple of ideas and tools that are in Illustrator to help you to do the next assignment. And this is about the assignment of designing your poster layout, and then from that particular layout you're going to create iterations, different layouts using the same source materials. You can certainly change some things, but you want it to be sure that it's a consistent visual identity as far as design is concerned. You want to be sure to also to use the designers that I have commented on to discover and to upload those designs that you really love and like, and more than likely will influence your assignment outcome. And that's important to remember. In digital media, we really look to our peers, we look to other sources, we look and observe nature, things that we see. We too experience the internet and have see a lot of content, and you kind of look at things and go, oh, I love that. And you want to hold on to those discoveries because they can influence your work. Creative designs have always been influenced by something they have observed or experienced or have seen. So let's move forward, and I'm going to share my screen. And this will be for Illustrator. And as you can see here, I'm sort of giving the example of what our assignment is for this week. And again, please remember that if you're having any trouble with Illustrator, that you're not able to accomplish some of your creative ideas because you may not know all the tools, there's always an Adobe video tutorial you can watch on every individual tool. So you certainly can search that on YouTube and on the Adobe. So the important component is that we want to make it consistent. So you want to start, here's just an example of what I have laid out. You want to take your logo in the color that you have chosen. You want that to be a focal point. It could be in one of the social media ads, it could be less prominent and smaller if you would like. Many variations which are completely up to you. But the important thing is that what you're trying to accomplish is the ability to lay out photographs within Illustrator. So I'm going to show you some tools that will be very helpful that you can be able to do, such as this, which is where you create a shape. So this shape, if I unrelease this, just to show you. So on this tutorial, we are talking about clipping mask. And if you peruse a lot of my tutorials, you'll find that. But I wanted to particularly emphasize the assignment for this week, which is to design a poster and then do 2 other iterations or 3 to create your social media ads, which would be for Instagram and so forth. And I've given you the sizes in the course materials. So before we get into clipping mask, let's just cover a little bit some very basics. As you can see, real estate is always a challenge when you're working with software, getting all the windows to be where you want them to be. So the first thing is that you can add an artboard, which is right down here on this tool. So this is my artboard 2, this is 1, and this is 3. And if I wanted to create another one, I certainly can. And so that is how we do artboards. And so it's important to know that you can make as many as you want. And in fact, if you zoom out of canvas, what's important to realize is that you have all of this canvas. This does not exist. This does not exist in Photoshop. So this is one of the things that we love about Illustrator, is that you can create multiple pages, which will be a PDF. So I could export this file, export or save as. Save to Creative Cloud. Oh, no, I don't want to save to Creative. I want to save to my computer. I always like to save to my computer and then I back it up. And so I'll save this, logos, and we'll give this a folder, cafe. And the important thing is these photographs were photos that would have been coming from my design brief, as I mentioned in the design brief assignment, where you're selecting only 3 for our example, but you could have hundreds as far as a marketing campaign and a visual identity. So these are photographs that I've manipulated by either scaling them or cropping them, whatever it may be, and using the clipping mask, which is what I will explain to you. But the important part is that you can create these artboards. And again, you can create save as, and right down here, let's go to save as, and this is what I wanted to mouse down to. So there's your Adobe PDF, and that, a PDF is like a JPEG. Most people can read PDFs, and you can have multiple pages, which is also exciting. So you can show multiple iterations for people to sign off on. And again, the artboard is something that you can come up here to the size. So on this one, this is the size in inches. This one is smaller for social media. And when we do our time-based assignment, a promotional video utilizing Photoshop, we will be moving into Photoshop, and the tutorial will be for just that. But for this one, I just want to talk about what our assignment is this week. I'll wait for your emails if you have any questions, but you're basically designing and using the text tool. So the text tool is pretty straightforward, but I do want you to see how when you make it, you can make a box and you can make it to be smaller. This was 72. I can make this to be 200. And you can find your copy either from the existing website or United Nations on the sustainable theme, or if you love to write words and copy and you're a good writer, come up with a hook. So this was my best hook I could come up with, which is the new roast to toast. And so I would be utilizing that, and it is all one box of type. And I was able to use this. So let's do this again. So I'll do roast to boast, or roast to toast. And as you see how far apart it is, you can come up here to your window, get the type window. So it's something important to remember when you crack software. You literally should spend a day, if not a morning or an afternoon or an evening, and just peruse all of the tools that are actually visible to you. All the down, pause when you get to the rollovers that have the arrows. All of your toolbar has lots of rollovers. And as I explained in the very beginning, the toolbar with the 3 dots, you can customize it. But the important part here, as you can see, getting back to the type tool, is you pull out the character from window, under type, there's character, and you highlight it, and so you can make it pull together to be tighter as you would want it to be. Oh, come on, Zoom is not letting me do that, which is kind of interesting. This would get very tight on here, and it's not changing anything, not a thing. But it would tighten up, as you can see, as it is here. And so that will help you in your type tool to be able to do that. So I'm going to come up here, and it might be 300 point. That might be why it's doing that. I'm just going to take it down, see if it's working at all, right? There we go. And let's see if this comes up here. Make this be 9 point. It's not really taking that 300 point, not accepting it. Let's bring it out. There you go. And so I'm just gonna pick this up. And I'm happy when things don't go my way, so you can kind of see that this is the nature of the program itself, where you want to be sure that I'm going to just come up here and type and copy paste. There we go. And put this into one line. There we go. So now it's working. So sometimes, this is how I call Illustrator is a sticky software. And it really just comes about by utilizing it. So you could see making that box did not really activate the kerning of this. And it's actually the leading. This is kerning. And if you roll over, you can see the letters. Here's a kerning. Kerning here, which is pushing capitals and lower levels. Here's the tracking, bringing things closer as well. And this is the leading, which is the space between lines. So as you see, I can spread this out a little bit. And so this is how I was able to get this to be nice and tight. Now, sometimes that works very nicely and it has improved over the years, I have to say. But the important thing is that if it doesn't, sometimes you do have to come in here and basically convert the type to shapes. So that means create outlines. So create outlines lets it break away from the linking to the typeface suitcase and let you become a designer. And so then I would go ungroup, and then I would pick things up such as like this and group it because I want the letters to be all there. But I can move it around. I can scale it and not be so dependent on the kerning and the character type window. So I really can begin to design it the way I would like to design it. And again, grouping is critically important in Illustrator. It helps you to not necessarily make another layer, which is what you would do in Photoshop, but in Illustrator, we just do groupings, and our groupings become our main layers. And so for this, I will group this. It's already grouped, highlight it, and transform to scale it. Just simply the E keystroke. And then again, the one thing you always have to remember in Illustrator, if I haven't said this enough times, is the shift key must always be down intuitively whenever you are scaling. Whenever. So it's important to know that the last thing you want to do is to distort artwork that has been given to you, and that would not be good. So again, often you can use the character type if it helps and gets the job done. Other than that, you have to create outlines, and there's many reasons why we create outlines. Sometimes the printer may not have our font suitcase, and so therefore we have to create an outline, or we're moving the file around for presentation purposes, many things that you become experienced with, as we say. Like I just turned on this perspective grid, as you can see here. So I want to turn that off. So I would go to View, and let's get that to be turned off, and hide grid. There we go. So again, something I see and I don't want to see it, you simply go to View. And it could be a guide, it could be the perspective grid, whatever it may be. Adobe is very good in their UX, UI designs. That is for sure. So as you can see, you want to be sure that when your typefaces are chosen, that you do have the ability to have lots of sizes for whatever reason it is. And as you notice in design, as I showed you a lot of those design principles, this is how you apply them. So instead of having the font be all the same bold, I'm changing things up. And you will see that a lot. You will see a lot of things bold, a lot of things light or thin in contrast. And that is because we can simply see it better whether it be a shade grade different, or scale, or a thickness of a line, whatever it may be, or a color is more dominant than the other, therefore you see it. Lots of things that come about. So, so those are the things that are to cover in this tutorial. Is number one, the overview of the artboard, making your sizes for the social medias, making it an iteration. So I would probably take this type and rearrange it in different ways. Same wording to be consistent. Same thing as what they did here on the advertisement of Trevor hosting the Grammys. So if you notice, everything is exactly the same. And these social media iterations were blasted all over every possible social media platform there was. And the only thing that's changed, literally, is number one, the subject matter of the focal point, which is the artist, and the typeface of their name on the back. Everything's pretty similar. I mean, this doesn't have the same glow, so that changed a little bit, but this glow is the same as that glow, but this glow is not the same. So you can do some little variations that you can see. But for here, it's clearly just the typeface. And this is why our skills are in so much demand for being creative and coming up with ideas for creating digital media content. So what we're going to be doing, and I will end this video with talking about why Illustrator is probably the most important tool outside of Photoshop. So people would say, well, what's more important, Photoshop or Illustrator? I have to say they are both heavyweights. They were equally powerful. I wouldn't take sides. One is more than the others. I just know you can't do without one or the other. When you are a visual designer, you really need to know your Illustrator and you really need to know your Photoshop, bottom line. You can then branch out and learn other things such as web design, 2D animation, 3D animation, game design, motion design, visual effects, graphic design, brochures, posters, package design, all of them need Photoshop and Illustrator to some extent as far as coming up conceptually or actual content. Guarantee it. And even in VR, which is what I've been digging into quite a bit these months. And I'm very excited because Adobe is going to come out with a VR program by Adobe. So I'm excited because we get the whole package and we can be able to explore with that. And just the fact that Adobe is doing that really demonstrates how much they know that is a game changer in our particular field of interactive technologies, without a doubt. So let's get to the clipping mask. And as you can see here, all I did was duplicate this and scale this, and this can become a pattern. So you can actually make a pattern in Illustrator. So let me show you how to do that quickly since we're on the pattern. So you want to go to your swatches. Swatches are your colors, and for some reason this file you would have a lot more colors here. Mine is sort of defunct. It's an older file, and I think that's the problem. So but the important thing is when you have a grouping like this, all you have to do is drag and drop it into your file, and that automatically makes a pattern. So if I wanted to take an oval and make it that big, and again, you can't make a perfect square or perfect circle without that shift key. And again, if you wanted to make it from the center, it would be Shift Alt, start from the center, and you can come out. And so just making that one pattern, all I have to do is double click my swatch, and you see how it is confusing. It's because the pattern had no background. So the pattern had no background. So let's go back. Let's back this up again. We don't need that because it's too easy to make. This time, let's get a pattern behind here. And let's give it a color. Let's create the blues that are in here. And again, a circle, again, centered. Let's just get this on the circle. There we go. And you see how the pattern is here. And so now you can come up here to Object, Arrange. You have to highlight it first though. Arrange, send to the back. And so now you see it's in the same layer. Let's just look at our layers. Turned off all of this artboard. I'm only playing in the sandbox here. And here's my layers, and there's an eclipse that I can move around. And again, the E lets you scale it. And so if I make that my pattern, whoops, let's get the label in there. That now can become a pattern altogether. And again, I can grab this, group it, and drag and drop it into the swatch, and then it makes another pattern there. And so if I wanted to make another artboard as such, or maybe a third social media content, I could make a shape that could be altered, right? It could be altered to bring up. And I'm just showing this as an example. And again, you can line this up and so forth. And this can now click, and that shape will go into, whoops, I'm in the pattern, don't want to be in the pattern. That I can be up here and make my shape, whatever shape that may, and there it is. Because right there is my pattern. And so therefore you can fit it into your pattern. And that's that's what we love about being able to do a pattern. And yes, you can scale it once you get it fit to what you want it to be. But that's literally how, and again, if you don't want this artboard, just go back to artboards and just hit delete. Yep, made another one. And it's very easy to do if you're not watching which tool you're on, and you'll come to know that with many of the programs. So that was a simple example of making a pattern, and that's fantastic for textures, surfaces, things that you want to overlap or make exciting textures within type, within a shape, whatever it may be. It doesn't have to be a design like this. It could just be literally textures. And don't forget, there are lots and lots of palettes here. When you come down to your swatches, here are all the swatch libraries. Patterns right here. Nature, flowers. Let's go to patterns, library, patterns, decorative. And here are they. And as you can see, you can simply drag and drop them into, so that if I highlighted this and I wanted that pattern, there I have that pattern. Now this is because I have that grouping here. So I can move that out. So it's all together, have to ungroup it. Always remember that. When you can't move things, it's because it needs to be ungrouped. So now I have it away. So that's the value of patterns that you can choose between any of them. That you can start with something and break it apart if you so wanted to. So definitely, if you're interested in patterns, no question, Google it, find the Adobe tutorial. It is phenomenal. Fashion designers, package illustrators all use it all the time. So little, I could review quite a bit, but the good news is that there's so many tutorials specifically on just that subject matter by Adobe, and that's really what you're looking for to get to the nitty-gritty. So let's just do a little bit on clipping mask. So clipping mask is the opportunity to put an image into a particular shape. So let's step backwards on this. So you can actually clipping mask release, and that's all it was. So when you look at what I have here, let's fill this so you can see it. So this is the shape I had. This is the photograph that I imported, which is utilizing place. And what you're trying to do now, this shape could be type. It could be a pattern even. It could be a letter. It could be your logo. Whatever it may be, it could be simply a circle. Whatever you're looking for, something to be within a shape, a design. Very, very popular, very, very effective. But the rule in doing this in Illustrator are these steps. So number one, you must have them on top of each other. And so when I highlight this, as you can see, this path, shift key down for multiple selections, these two items are in the same layer and they are on top of each other. So the shape that you want the photograph to be in is on top and the photograph is in the back. That's all. And when they are highlighted, and you can tell when things are highlighted by this, you simply have them highlighted, and then you come up here to Object, Clipping Mask, Make. Now, if it's not in the perfect position, they finally put this tool on called Edit Content. And now you can move the content around to get it exactly where you want it to be. And trust me, in those days when they didn't have it, it was a lot of work to get it in the right place. So these things have been improved, and they certainly help you create fast content. So that is with the clipping mask. And again, you can release it to do it again, or change your vector image, whatever you would like to do. So now what I want to do is come back again to what we have here and turn on. So again, you can create your artboard simply by making a box and deleting it if you don't want it. Or you can also make your iteration. So if you've got a start of an iteration such as this. Okay, so what we've covered so far is the ability to design your poster layout, which will be for print. And again, you can get the sizes from the artboard, select the artboard, and right up here, width and height. So it should be 13 by 19, and I'm a little over the size or a little under, simply because I was just trying to make it fit, which is fine. And but you can make it perfect. That's important to remember. And then you're going to make smaller artboards, scaling it down, keeping the same ratio, which are inches, smaller inches, as you can see. And you can save for web. So I want to show you the export component. So obviously there are two formats that are going to be formatted. One, which is for the inches, which is what you can export as, and one that you can export for the web. So it's important to remember that. So the thing about exporting anything from any program that you ever use is to look at the final export product. And what I mean by looking at it, you want to look at the properties. So in Illustrator, just to help you to understand the different properties that you get out of Illustrator, helps you to understand the digital media content of designing for different deliverables, as we like to say, for different mediums, whether it be for print, whether it be for a billboard, for time-based, for social media ads. They all have different sizes and resolutions. So for print, your export can be a couple of things. Save as, and for print, as you can see down here, Adobe AI or an EPS, which can go to an offsetting printer, or it could go for a PDF. Sometimes printers like PDFs, especially Adobe PDFs. And so that would be what you would export. Now, again, it says a range of artboards. So if you know if your poster is number 1, be sure to check the number. You can make a range and just choose that for the print. Then, if you want the 2 social media ones to come out, then you can say export, save for web. And what that's going to do is going to take the 300 dpi of the document and compress it to 72 dpi. And in Photoshop, you can change the pixel dimension. So if you do save for web, saving for web, you can do it through this export, save for web, and do them one at a time. Or you can do all screens. The important thing is save for web will make the compression for you. And then in Photoshop, you can sort of resize it to be the pixel dimension that you would like. Okay, so we'll cover that for the next assignment, because the next assignment is going to be time-based. And again, Photoshop will be how we organize our social media ads in Photoshop, and also how we can create motion design, motion graphics, utilizing Photoshop and utilizing your social media layout, poster or social media layout, depending on which one you decide to do. So we'll work on that tutorial. There's lots of video tutorials on that already, but I wanted to specifically just talk about how, in this video, how you can design multiple social media ads from your initial poster layout, coming up with different ideas and different layouts. Okay? See you soon. Don't forget to email me if you have any questions.